This is Pastor Jeff Chavis. I'm the pastor of Church Online. We're a unique online community of faith, and you can find us at churchonline.com, but we spell that CHRCH because we say all that's missing is you. churchonline.com. This past week, I had the pleasure of being at a conference, really encouraging conference, evangelistic kind of conference, and I wanted to share with you something that I got from the conference. But before I get into that, I wanted to say a special hello to Ruben DeValle, who is there in Valparaiso. I was talking to him at the conference, and I looked at his badge, and he said, Valparaiso, and I said, I'm going to be on the radio on Friday. So if you're listening, Ruben, and I hope you are, good morning. I hope you had a great week too. Our keynote speaker was the the CEO of Corporate Chaplains of America. His name is Larry Griffith, and he talked about being salt and light. Now, what he said that really inspired me is, of course, the passage is in Matthew 5:13 through 16, and we'll read that here in a minute. And you may be really familiar with the passage where Jesus says that we are salt of the earth, light of the world. But what Larry said in his message was there has never been a more important time to be salt and light than right now. And he gave some examples of things that are going on in the culture, some things that are happening within the church. But he really encouraged every one of us to be salt and light. So and then on the plane ride home, I really dug into that scripture and I thought about it a lot. And I really wanted to share some thoughts with you today. But let me go to the text. Again, it's Matthew 5, starting in verse 13. In my Bible, it has those subheadings, and it says, believers are salt and light. And these are the words of Jesus. It's some of that red letters in the Bible, part of the Sermon on the Mount. He says, you are the salt of the earth. But if the salt loses its flavor, how shall it be seasoned? It is then good for nothing but thrown out and trampled underfoot by men. You are the light of the world. A city on a hill cannot be hidden, nor do they light a lamp and put it under a basket, but on a lampstand, and it gives light to all who are in the house. Let your light shine before men, that they may see your good works and glorify your Father in heaven. So when you think about those two ideas, salt and light, they're two concepts that couldn't be further apart, right? There's salt, which we probably have on our dining room table right now, or in the pantry at least, and we shake that on stuff and it enhances the flavor. Now, I'm sure we've all heard, sermons preached about this. People talk about it. Yes, salt was also a preservative. It had a whole bunch of different uses in the first century. But Jesus specifically said it loses its flavor. So he was talking about salt as the flavor additive, the enhancer of flavor. But that's a really strange way to say things. You are the salt of the earth. It makes me think that I'm supposed to be some kind of enhancement for the world around me. And that's absolutely what we're supposed to be as followers of Jesus. Our presence ought to be the thing that enhances. But unfortunately, and this also something Larry said, we're not supposed to be salty. You know what I mean by that? There's some people kind of grumbly and angry, and they're salty people. And we're not supposed to be salty people in that sense, but instead we're supposed to be enhancing the world around us. That's also related to the light concept. But it's the little phrase where he says, but if the salt loses its flavor. You may not be aware of this, but that phrase literally means if the salt becomes simple. Now, if you pause and think about that for a minute, you go, well, salt is a mineral. How would that even happen? Well, it's kind of a play on words that Jesus is using. He literally, that phrase, to lose its flavor, literally means to be simple. It can also mean to become simpleton, like foolish. So if we are the salt of the earth, if we're trying to enhance the world around us, but then we become foolish. And how does salt lose its flavor? The only way salt can lose its flavor is to become diluted. Like things of the world get mixed in with that. Think about that again and think about being foolish. How could we possibly become so much like the world that we become foolish and then we'll be good for nothing. Well, how do we fix that, or how do we keep from doing that? That's the next line. You are the light of the world. Of course, we can recognize the concept of being light and bringing again an enhancement to everything that is around us. We ought to be those kind of people. Again, not salty people. When we walk into a room and it's like, oh, there he is. No, we ought to be people that just brighten up a room. We enhance wherever we are. And people just say, I want to know what that person has. I want to become like that. But then it's the final phrase that is so challenging. He says, let your light shine before men that they can see your good works. Now, of course, don't think for a moment we're talking about salvation by works. That's not at all what this is about. But the idea is our good works are the thing that is going to enhance the world around us. Now, we may not be talking physical labor. Maybe it's your good works of walking into a room, starting up conversations, being the kind of person that can just listen when somebody's pouring their hearts out. That does take work, doesn't it? Those are the kinds of things that we do that help us to be salt and light, be an enhancement to the world around us, and not to become foolish. Let's not get into those arguments, those things that separate and divide us. I'm sorry, but I think that that's how we become foolish. We start getting so worked up in conversations, we might actually lose our witness. We might become so diluted because we're arguing about the things of this world, and then we're good for nothing. No, instead, let us be salt and light and allow that, again, that last line, that they could see your good works and glorify your Father in heaven. That one I've struggled with for a long time. What kind of a work can I do that glorifies God? In other words, what could I do right now that would be a work, but yet people would recognize it wasn't me doing it, it was God doing it? That's what we are supposed to be about. Yes, it's awesome. We need to go serve our neighbors and love our neighbors. But how do you do it in such a way that he gets all the glory? Well, the greatest way is to be known as that enhancement for the world around us, but also to be known as his light. We have no light of our own, do we? It's only the light that Christ gives us. So if we become known as that, and especially not become known because he's just a doer of good deeds. No, we need to be those kind of people that we're doing those good works and people go, oh, he's doing that because of the God who is in him. That is our challenge today.